anyone can do change for a few days, a week, but it's about how do you maintain change for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year. And so that's going to be one of the key things that we're going to look at as well, is how do you maintain that change.
Yeah.
One of the things I think, first of all, people need to consider is, why do people do it? The main reason people are going to say is they do it is because it feels amazing. So people report that it feels like unbelievable, that they feel like they're God, or they feel like they're really powerful, and it totally makes them feel amazing. And it's short lived, so it might last about 10 to 15 minutes, and then they have to do more. And then they usually end up having to do more to get to that same level. So they keep trying to do more, and they can never get back to that same level. So they kind of chase it until they run out, and then they then think about it more in between having cocaine. So they'll often think about how to get it. They'll think about where they're going to get it from, and so there's a whole process of that anticipation, of the using, of then the afterwards, of what it feels like when you come down from it and when you feel crap and rubbish. So you kind of think, well, so there's some of the reasons why, but we have to dig a bit deeper though, because we need to know really kind of what's underlying, what's the root causes. So I've worked with addictions and substance misuse for years, and one of the things, the biggest things within any type of substance misuse or any type of addiction, is it's usually being used to cover up something else. So there's a bigger underlying issue. And so it's used to avoid or to move away from something very painful. Now, often in childhood, there can be difficulties there that have arisen, or it can be childhood trauma, but whatever patterns we have in life come from childhood. So we generally develop our communication styles, our relationship styles, everything from our attachments in early life. And so it's not to say that everyone's had a bad childhood who uses substances or cocaine or anything like that. It's just that's where we develop things. So we learn certain habits and patterns of behavior from our early childhood. So people are doing it really to avoid things. So it's usually and it could be some things like they hate feeling bored, and they get when they get bored, they just, or even just like life can be boring, life can be meaningless. You go through the same motions day after day, and it can be really difficult, and life can be really hard. And so then when there's something else, a substance that's brought along that makes you feel amazing, and also, like there's, you'll be easy. Most people will know this type of thing, but cocaine increases your dopamine levels significantly. So you're going to feel good, and you're going to feel like really focused on achieving that feeling and getting that again. And so when we do these types of behaviors, whether it's cocaine, whether it's food, chocolate, sweets, whether it's an activity, anything that increases dopamine, we're going to want to do it again. And so as we want to do it again, we kind of repeat this, but because of the significance of using cocaine and how much it raises the dopamine levels, it makes it so that it becomes even more addictive, and we just want that more and more. And because it's so good at shifting the focus away from any underlying issue, we just want to get it more and more. So we have like the anticipation side, so trying to get it, acquire it, and knowing if we can, if we can't, when we can, when we can't. All of that creates dopamine as well, and that creates an excitement as well. A bit like the phrase the thrill of the chase. And then when we get it, then we've got it, and then obviously it would be used and it would produce that amazing feeling that people report. And then afterwards, you would have the awful feeling, the come down, the regret. And during this process, you will change your perception of yourself and sometimes other people as well, and just life in general. It'll make life seem more dull. You won't be getting as much out of life. So the focus will be on, when am I next going to use? So when you change those beliefs, though, you change them about yourself. And so it'll make you modify beliefs about how well you can cope, how well you can do things, and also beliefs about yourself and negative beliefs. because you'll start to think that things like when you're in low of it and regretting it, you'll feel shame and guilt. You might have used all your money for that instead of something more purposeful, or you might have avoided family or other responsibilities. And so then it'll make you feel a lot of shame and guilt afterwards. And then that'll impact on your self esteem and how you feel just about yourself in general, which as you start to go down and feel lower, you're going to want it more to make you feel better. The DSM-5 is a manual called the Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders, and it's for psychologists to use to look at diagnosing someone. So if it was a stimulant use disorder, that's what we would be looking at. So there is lots of key points in there about what what criteria needs to be met in order to be diagnosed. However, most diagnoses come to a point where it talks about impacting social, occupational, or family functioning. And so this is something you've got to consider. So if you're using cocaine, like everyone who does it will do it at different degrees, but is it affecting your social life? Is it affecting your occupational? So is it affecting your job and your work and your ability to go and perform at your job? Is it meaning that when you use and in that recovery period you're taking time off work or you're not performing as good? Because if it is, then this is saying that this is going to make a significant impact on your life. Is it affecting your family life? Is it affecting that kind of family dynamic? Are you avoiding, withdrawn, or are you kind of struggling to recover for the next few days, a week, or however long it takes? So there's different degrees to how it will impact on your life. And then usually the different degrees means that if it's significantly impacting on your life, you could be in a state where you kind of shut yourself off and you're not aware of the impact and you kind of try and block that out as well, which means that you can not be ready for change. And so then when it comes to the different stages of change, you won't even be contemplating it or pre-contemplation. You just won't be wanting to change and you might need interventions from other people. Whereas sometimes if you're using and it's having a significant impact on your life and you can really see it and you want to change, so you're in the contemplation change stage, or you're even actually moving further along and you're putting things in place, it can still be hard to not go back to it because the allure of wanting more, wanting that kind of high is really strong. And so we need to introduce strategies and kind of new belief systems in order to change and maintain change. Because the key thing is anyone can do change for a few days, a week, but it's about how do you maintain change for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year. And so that's going to be one of the key things that we're going to look at as well, is how do you maintain that change? It's useful to refer to stimulant use because cocaine falls under the stimulant bracket, and sometimes it could be used to as a self-medication. So if someone has ADHD, for example, they are prescribed stimulant medication. So it's usually amphetamine-based medication. And so cocaine is a stimulant, similar to caffeine. Caffeine's it's not similar to caffeine, but caffeine is a stimulant. And so say for example, with people with ADHD will often use a lot of caffeine or they'll find other things that can provide that high dopamine level. And so if you had ADHD and were using cocaine, it is going to be like a self-medicating principle. However, some people will self-medicate using cocaine because they don't know how to regulate their emotions. And so if you don't know how to regulate your emotions, then you could be self-medicating through any type of substance or any type of addiction. And so anytime your emotions come to the surface or you get like a quiet period where you have to sit still, then it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're not going to like it. And so as they kind of come up and you start to feel those uncomfortable emotions, you can do anything to distract yourself, whether it's food, sweets, drinks, substances, whatever it is, you're going to do it to try and get rid of it. So self-medicating can be another key reason why. Some strategies for how to overcome it. Now, I'm not saying these are just going to be quick fixes. They're not just going to guarantee change because it depends on which stage you're at of your change, whether you are even aware of it and you want to change. But if you do want to change, there's lots that you can do, but it's about being consistent with it and maintaining change over a long period of time. So I'm going to go through some ways. Now, these are just kind of like going to be presented randomly of different strategies. Find the ones that work for you, test them out, and if they work for you, then keep doing them. So as soon as you notice one doesn't work or it isn't really helpful, that's fine, and you probably don't need to keep trying that one. So then try a different one. When you start getting a set of strategies that are working, keep doing it. Build into a routine. Have like a morning, midday, and evening routine. And so the more you do it, the better you're going to be at doing them and the more impact it's going to have. So if you think about a small stream, so if you had a small stream and every day you put a pebble in the stream, so over a year, 365 days, so if you imagine 365 pebbles, you're going to have changed the course of that stream. And so it's like this with the strategies. You do them daily, do them 3 times a day if you can, and you're going to eventually change the shape of the stream. So, some ways to help are meditation. So, meditation, we hear about it all the time, but there's some simple ways you can do it. So, sit still. Try and give yourself about 5 minutes and just sit still. So, don't cross your arms or legs, just sit still and see what comes into your mind, see what you notice, and you might get that uncomfortable feeling come up. You might get those emotions, that things you're running away from, and you'll get them so that they start getting close to the surface. It's going to feel uncomfortable. If you can't do 5 minutes, do a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Just do something so you kind of get outside your window of tolerance so that you kind of deal with the distress of it. And as you sit still with it, you're going to start to notice that you can cope with it and you can be okay with these emotions. We'll do some more on emotion regulation in a little bit in the video, but sitting still is really good. But you've got to be aware of, obviously, as you sit still, you're sitting still with yourself. And so some of these things are going to be uncomfortable. You can't get away from yourself. And so you need to learn to be okay at being with yourself. So don't avoid things, sit still. And even if it's hard, just notice what's going on in your body and how you're feeling, what thoughts you're getting. Don't try and think about things. Don't hold on to thoughts. Just be aware of them. So it's like a mindfulness meditation where you're just non-judgmental, noticing what comes into your mind. Okay, self-reflect. So if you can self-reflect more and more, you'll be able to learn what your triggers are. So even if you have used, self-reflect afterwards. Notice what made you feel uncomfortable, what thoughts you were having, what the situation was, where you were. Go through lots of different examples, not examples, go through lots of different points. It could be time of the day, it could be certain social media use, it could be being with different friends, it could be being away from friends. Just notice all the different data points that you have because that'll help you as you self-reflect to then know what is your trigger and what's triggering it. And as you start to know more about the different triggers, you're going to then be able to look at what to do about them. Because if it is social media use after 9 o'clock or whenever it is, whatever the trigger is, you can then put something in place to prevent you using that. But one of the things I was going to mention later is that don't try and just stop using without replacing something else. Like, so don't just, if you just totally stop using and you don't have any strategies in place, you haven't done any reflective work, any work within yourself around emotions and kind of underlying issues, then you're going to have a real big battle on your hands. So the idea, I'm not saying just to keep using, what I'm saying is start with the strategies, start doing them straight away, because as you start doing the strategies and you're doing them straight away, what's going to happen is you're going to then develop a lot of confidence within yourself around being able to cope with emotions, being able to cope with that situation or certain triggers. And so then it'll be easier for you to maintain change, which then has a good knock on effect on your beliefs because you're going to then have better beliefs that you can cope and you can maintain the change. Borrow some strategies from AA. So AA, you get sponsors, and so you have someone like a friend or someone who can be there for you. So if you are having a really difficult time, so you're struggling and you're just thinking, I need someone just to sit with me. If you have ADHD, we have this strategy called body doubling, and just having someone there can help, and it helps with co-regulation of the emotions. So if you have someone else present with you, it can even be a dog or an animal or a pet or anything. You having someone with you can help. So using AA's strategy of having a sponsor, having someone that you can call up, someone that can come round, that will really help. But just be careful. Make sure it's not someone that could encourage you to use again, or someone that you normally would use cocaine with. So it's got to be someone totally separate that you can call on that will give you that support. And ideally, if they're quite accepting and good at listening, then that'll help as well. Another one, this is a really good one, is to try and seek more dopamine activities naturally. So this might not be things that you like, and because they're not always going to be things you like, but they can bring big amounts of dopamine. And there's a lot of research on these things. So cold plunge pools, they're awful, and doing them all year round is awful. I do them sometimes, and it's hard. And for the first 30 seconds, you feel like you're having a panic attack and you can hardly breathe. Then after that, that feeling goes away. And so then after you've done it for about 3 minutes, you'll notice that you do start to feel good, and you get a different feeling because you're getting lots of chemicals going on within your body, but you are getting that dopamine in a natural way. You could do adrenaline sports. I love mountain biking, surfing, and so when you do adrenaline sports, you get lots of dopamine as well. You can walk up mountains, you can eat right, drink less alcohol. You can find different ways that can give you natural dopamine that you don't have to do like crazy in adrenaline sports. So you can just go for nice walks. You can go and plan things out with friends, and do some nice activities where you'll get enjoyable experiences, and you'll be able to get dopamine without replacing it with something like just constantly scrolling on your phone or something. You've got to replace it with a more healthier, natural dopamine supply. Yeah, and don't just replace it with something else addictive. So don't just go from one addiction to another. But what is better though and healthier is if it's, say you did go from um, using cocaine to then being in an extreme sport, that would be considered more healthy or more socially appropriate. So try and think about, am I just switching from one thing to another? If you do, that's fine, but make sure you work on the underlying issue that causes you to want that addiction. If you don't resolve the underlying issue, you're not going to be able to. You're just going to go from one thing to another. Like I said before, make sure you don't just, because as soon as you say, right, I'm not using cocaine anymore, your brain will naturally want to use it, and also you'll start thinking about it more. It's a bit like if I say, don't look at that fire, not the fire. If you don't look at that over there, don't look at the TV, or don't look at this hand, you're going to just look at that. So the thing I was meant to say is, don't touch that fire. I knew I said it wrong. So as soon as you say don't do something, then you naturally kind of want to go and look at it. So, or do it. So just focus on what you are going to do, and that's the new strategies, and you're going to do the reflective work, and you're going to be putting in as many of the new psychological strategies as possible. And so as you do that, you then just focus on each day at a time, and you're going to focus on what you are doing. And so when you do that, it means you're going to then be, rather than like focusing on everything you're not. So imagine an allotment. If you just had a big patch of mud and you said, all I'm going to do is just get rid of the weeds, that's a bit like saying, I'm not going to do this or I'm not going to do that. You just have a patch of mud. So in an allotment, you do get rid of the weeds, but you plant the things you want: strawberries, peas, cucumbers, whatever you are planting. So you plant the things you want. And then when you focus on that, it gives you something fun, enjoyable to aim for. So focus on things like good family time, good friends, good fun activities. So as you do all of that, you're focusing on the good strategies and the good things. Do a self-reflective diary and focus on benefits and of not using, and you can focus on all the amazing things that you've got going on in your life. And when I say amazing things, everyone does have amazing things in their life. It's just trying to find them. And we can sometimes overlook things and think, we need to have an amazing car, amazing job, but like being alive is amazing, and being able to have like your senses working and being in touch with different things. For example, I love food, and so I don't need it to be covered in loads of different flavorings. I love just the taste of food, and when I actually slow down eating, that is because I like to eat fast. So when I slow down and taste everything, it's amazing, and I am really grateful. And then when I look at my family, my kids, all the different aspects of my life, I can then find something that I am grateful for, and that is really good in my life. So doing a reflective diary and looking at the benefits and the good things going on in your life is excellent. You can also then reflect on what the negative aspects of using cocaine is, or some kind of addiction. So you could say, like, I've got lots of good things going on in my life. This is what it was costing me. So it was costing me friends, or it was costing me something to do with my work or family life. You can look at that. You can look at the recovery time afterwards. So I was out of action for 2 or 3 days or a week or whenever, and you can focus on the good aspects of your life and then what the negatives were from that. So as you do this, you'll start to build new beliefs. Building new beliefs is a key part of it. Now, this can come naturally as you do the reflective work. You can also then build in new beliefs about how well you can cope. So you can put in things like, if I am in this situation, it could be one of your triggers, then I will do X, Y, or Z. And as you do that, you then strengthen that belief. And so there's lots of ways then that you can introduce new beliefs by usually if then. So if I'm doing this, then I'm going to do this. And so building the new beliefs is the best, or the one of the best strategies, because that's where we totally change from I can't cope with my emotions, I can't cope with this trigger, I need something to distract me, to I can cope with things. I don't need that. If that trigger comes up, I don't need to do this. I can cope with life. I don't need a distraction. And so we start to build new beliefs about ourselves, our self-esteem, the kind of positive um, belief in your coping of that type of thing. So the distress tolerance increases. There's lots that kind of goes on without you knowing. Um, and you will just naturally come to some kind of new belief about how you can cope. The next one is a really good one. You can predict positive outcomes for the future. So it could be that whenever I get tempted, I'm pretty certain I'm going to choose to do something good, or I'm going to choose to do this or that. And so predicting that you're going to do it well, you already then have thought it through. And because the mind doesn't always know the difference between thinking and doing, by predicting that you're going to overcome it and that you're going to do better in the next situation, it then kind of adds up like a pebble to the stream that we talked about. So it does then give you more chance and more confidence and more success with it next time. Another strategy, it depends on what the trigger is. If you find that you do get stressed a lot, or you get that uncomfortable feeling, can't cope with it, then because this could be your limbic system or your fight or flight system being activated, where it wants to kind of deal with the threat and you then want to just avoid the threat, you can obviously do the sit still, get comfortable with the emotions, but you can do a simple thing of holding water in your mouth. So this comes from EMDR, it's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And it's a strategy where they hold water in the mouth, and if you do it for about 30 seconds, what happens is your brain can't be in fight or flight then, because it knows that the digestive system is working. And so when your digestive system's working, then it calms you down and you don't go, your fight or flight just reduces quite significantly. But it isn't going to be instant within 2 to 3 seconds. So do it for about 30 seconds and you will notice it starts to reduce significantly. So there's a lot of things that we've talked about, how to reduce or how to overcome cocaine use, and this will reduce your cocaine use. So try the strategies out, see which ones work well, keep doing them. But remember, morning, midday, evening, if you can, do whatever works for you though. If you can just do them once a day, um, as long as you're doing them consistently most of the time, you're going to start to build up that increased ability to cope and overcome the cocaine or whatever addiction it is. So if you like the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I will do more videos. I've got some more coming on all the time, so keep a lookout for new videos coming on.